Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, walleyes is something we don't talk a lot about. Most of us almost worship this fish. It tastes better than most. It just seems to draw people to try to fish for walleyes. And I want to share a few things that I've found, or the few of the tips to make you, if you understand, maybe a little bit better walleye fisherman. Number one, walleyes are called that because they're their eyes are almost like walls. They look almost like cataracts when you see them. They're very sensitive to light. And so they tend to prefer to be active at night or on dull days. Now, I'll talk more about this at another time. Second of all, they're a school fish, just like perch, which they are really a big giant perch. Walleyes school together. So your goal is to find a school of fish and then fish it in a certain way. The other thing is, if you just catch a walleye and you're not really trying to, then just be aware there's more around. That walleye isn't going to be alone. They're always with other walleyes. Third thing is, if they prefer a slower speed, or they're going to react to something going slower than something maybe a muskie or even a smallmouth bass would react to. If you're trolling for walleyes, you need to troll a little slower, maybe a lot slower than you might for other fish. Here's what I have found. Once I find a school of walleye, I will keep presenting whatever I'm using over and over and over and over. I can't tell you how many times. And I've gone where I would cast 100 times to the same little area of brush where I knew there was a school of walleyes living under. And maybe after 100 casts, the next cast I get a strike. And I've done this along the St. Lawrence, and I've recorded this on video. This time of the year, right now, I know where there's certain schools of walleyes. And if I go to that spot, I may cast 50 times, and I won't get discouraged if I don't get a strike, because I know that eventually, if I keep doing this, one of them is going to weaken and going to strike it. And I've had it happen over and over again. I think one of the mistakes people make that want to catch walleyes is they abandon their presentation too soon. I'll abandon my presentation with, for example, bass. People tell me, oh, bass, you keep casting, they'll finally hit. I don't find that. I find my first few casts are going to be the most productive. The other thing that I think is really kind of fun to know is that walleyes love worms. When I was young, before all this different type of technology, it really changed the face of fishing. The way you fish for walleyes in any lake that I ever went to in New York is you would get a boat and you would troll with a June bug spinner. That's what it was called. It was a blade that spun around that attracted them. And then on a leader, and then you had a single hook at the end, and you had a night crawler. And that is the way that we caught so many walleyes. And it's still one of the most popular ways to catch walleyes. They do love worms. They apparently scent is an important thing to walleyes. And here's the thing, though, that I find amazing. And I might talk about this in another report. But through my life fishing for walleyes, the biggest walleyes I've ever had, and some of the greatest action where the walleyes were on a feeding binge like you couldn't believe, was in days that were opposite of when you're supposed to catch them. In bright, sunny, bluebird days is when I've caught my biggest walleye. And always, it was a surprise to me. I wasn't targeting them naturally or necessarily. I just felt that I wasn't going to catch walleyes in these conditions. And yet, I can remember on the Grass River through the years catching walleyes over 30 inches. And every one of those that I caught that were that size were on bright, sunny days. And I remember a day that I was doing a TV show on the Grass River again with Captain Max Ferguson. I think he's now he's either a colonel. He's gone upwards since then. And he was a young guy that had, at the time, just come to Fort Drum, didn't know about the fishing. We drifted a long section of the grass, and on that day, he caught some of the most beautiful walleyes fishing for muskies using a MEP spinner. And those walleyes were in this one pool, and they were so active. So I wanted to pass that on. It goes against everything you would imagine, but the biggest walleyes I've ever caught have been on bright sunny days. So these are some of the things that I wanted to pass on to you. Some of the things about walleye fishing, and I think since we live in an area where walleyes may not be king to all the tournament and avid anglers, to the people that love the St. Lawrence and love fishing in this area, walleyes may very well be king. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.